hitting the panic button on the 8-1 Philadelphia Eagles? Jonathan?
Don't.
Yes.
Oh, okay. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Dorm Debate Podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed week 10 of the NFL season. It possibly had the game of the year. Vikings-Bills. Vikings pull out the win in overtime in dramatic, crazy, unfathomable fashion. And I still haven't comprehended that win, and it's been 2 days. Still cannot process that in my mind. And the Bills are actually our first team when we're going to be talking about our first game. And the game is, are you hitting the panic button? And there's 4 teams on this list. The question will be, are you hitting the panic button on these teams? Now, before we get into that, make sure you go over to our TikTok and on Instagram at Dorm Debate Podcast. Leave us a follow over there. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, leave us a 5-star review. Let's get right into this because I'm excited. And Jonathan, you should be excited too. Our first team is none other than the Buffalo Bills, and they lost for the first time. Well, actually, it was back-to-back losses for the Bills. They've lost to the Jets. They've lost to the Vikings. They also lost weeks back to the Dolphins. They are third in the AFC East. What happened? They were once first. I want to go through a couple things. Josh Allen is dealing with that elbow injury. It was really spotty if he was going to start or not. I'm just giving the facts, Jonathan. Don't look at me.
Yeah.
He was a little iffy. He had that UCL injury, and right up until the game, he was hour by hour, guys. I've never heard that in any injury term in sports. Crazy. Now, a couple things with Josh Allen that I just kind of researched, and he just got this elbow injury, so the excuses it can only go so far. Josh Allen leads the league in interceptions. He's third most fumbles by a quarterback. And last year, Jonathan, I think you brought this up in another podcast, but the Bills were 0-6 in one-score games last year.
Yep.
And all 3 of their losses this year have been one score. So, seems like they haven't changed since last year. That was their biggest downfall. Jonathan, I'm starting with you. Are you hitting the panic button on the third place Buffalo Bills?
Yes, I'm hitting the panic button big time. I mean, look, this is actually the year where the AFC East is pretty legit. Like most teams in there I want to say every team in there is pretty legit. Okay, you have the Dolphins that are on a hot streak. Tua's back. Tua has won every game he started, or he's played. He's played most of the games.
Finished.
Completely.
Started and finished, exactly. He has won, and so the Dolphins are dangerous with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. That's a dangerous offense. So both of them lost to them. The Jets, they're starting to get into the rhythm of things. Their defense is top notch with Sauce Gardner. Sauce Gardner, he's gonna get paid in terms of cornerback in the next few years because this guy is legit. He's legit. He can cover any receiver, I think. And so
Except,
you have a great
what
defense.
about Jefferson though?
Jefferson, I want to see that matchup. That's gonna be great. But the Jets' defense is legit. The running game, the offensive line is powerful. They're good. Zach Wilson is decent. He doesn't make too much mistakes, but he's decent. I would say their offensive line, great run game, great defense. Jets are legit as well. So the Buffalo Bills, it's not an easy coast like it was last year anymore. No, you actually have legit teams you have to beat. You actually have to coach good. You actually have to play well. You can't make mistakes. And
maybe this is good for them though. Like, do you think this could be good for them that they have to actually play tough teams? Because last year they didn't have to play tough teams. They kind of coasted through it and then lost in the playoffs. So do you think this is actually good for them that they're playing tough games going into the playoffs?
Yeah, that's a fair point. That's a good point. I think that's good. Yeah, now they get a sense of, hey, this is how the playoffs are going to be. We got to bring our A game every week. But I think the big thing people aren't talking about, though, is the coaching. Okay? When you lose that much games that are that close last year, and then this year you're losing to teams you should be beating, like the Jets, and I mean, they should beat the Dolphins. The Vikings, that was a close game. But like in games like that are close, the Chiefs last year, think about that. Guys, something's wrong. The last 3 weeks the Buffalo Bills have played, they've struggled in the second half. That's coaching. That is coaching. That's on Sean McDermott and the staff.
Yeah,
What are you guys doing?
The Bills haven't scored a second half touchdown since week 4.
Wow.
Or week 6, I think.
No, you're joking.
It's week
Is that
10. Or
for
10,
real?
11 now. In 4 straight games, I don't know if they had a bye in there. I think they did. But in at least 3 of the last 4 games, they haven't scored a second half touchdown.
Still.
So,
Wow,
Jonathan, I think you're onto something here.
That's inexcusable. See what I'm saying? That's inexcusable. That is on the coaching. When you have top talent like Josh Allen, you have Diggs, you have all these guys, you have superstars, on offense and defense, and you can't, number one, score points in the second half, and then you have trouble stopping offenses in the second half. The Vikings, they had the Vikings beat. It was 27-10. How do you let a team come back 27-10? Dalvin Cook having that 81-yard touchdown. How? You're supposed to be one of the top defenses in the NFL. How did that happen? You have the top players. How does that happen? That's coaching. The coaches need to get it together and figure out what's going on. They need to sit down and get it together because it's panic time in Buffalo. They're third in the division. You think the Jets and the Dolphins are going to lose the next few games like that? No, they're the real deal. They're trying to win. They're trying to win out. So at this point, the Buffalo Bills can't afford to lose any more games. I'm looking at their schedule. They don't play too much. Tough teams, but they do play the Dolphins again. Okay.
And the Jets again.
They play Jets,
Okay. Patriots twice.
Patriots. Oh,
Dolphins again. Bengals.
Oh man, see, this is what I'm saying.
This is tough.
This is tough.
You're relishing this, Jonathan.
You can't make any more mistakes now. Yeah, this is panic time. This is panic time. Yes, that's my answer. It's panic time.
So John, you've advocated for the Bills year in and year out. You pick them as the Super Bowl winners. You should be saying don't panic. Or is this your breaking point?
I think it's sort of a breaking point. If I had the panic button in front of me, I'm tapping it. It's getting pressed a tiny bit.
Yeah, you're not slamming it. You're just going to tap.
I agree with what Jonathan's saying because last season they were 0-6 in one-score games. This season they're a little bit better. They're 2-3 in one-score games. So they are playing tougher teams, or maybe they're just not as focused this season. I don't know, but maybe that is a good thing that they're playing these close games so that when it gets to the playoffs and they have a difficult schedule, they can actually win these close games. But I don't know, Jonathan, he's been saying for the last 2 years that the Bills are always going to find a way to mess it up. And I don't want to think that's true, but it kind of is. They always find a way to mess it up. Even against the Chiefs in overtime, you're like, well, that wasn't their fault because they never got the ball. I know it, but it doesn't. It's not always their fault. But they always lose. I can't pick a team that always loses. I don't care if it's their fault or not. They just lose. I'm starting to panic here. Jonathan said it. A nail on the head. I mean, they played the Patriots twice. They played the Bengals, Dolphins, Jets. This isn't going to be a cakewalk to the end of the season. They have to bring their A game every week. And if I'm a Bills fan, I'm a little bit nervous for a defense that's supposed to be one of the best in the league. They have the 5th worst run defense, and they just can't seem to stop anybody. They have had secondary injuries, but still, like Jonathan said, even if there's a lot of teams out there in the NFL that have injuries, but the coaching makes up for that, and they make sure that they coach well. How come the Bills haven't been able to do that? Not only has your defense been bad, but no touchdowns in the second half in the last 3 games? For one of the best offenses, that can't be. So if I'm a Bills fan, I'm starting to panic. I mean, everybody here probably thinks they're going to make the playoffs, but we're thinking long term for the Bills, and the hopes are Super Bowl.
It's more about the Super Bowl window here. People feel like the Super Bowl window is closing as Josh Allen gets older, Diggs getting older.
Well, Von Miller's closest to mine.
Von Miller. So how long can you keep all these guys together? Tre'Davious White still not coming back. He got injured last Thanksgiving, so he's been pushed back. Jordan Poyer's out. These little injuries starting to happen. Hide out for the season. Caleb, are you hitting the panic button?
No. I respect, Jonathan, your commitment to hating the Bills. That now I think there's a lot to be said about it. Because I think you were the lone voice in the wilderness, kind of against them while they were hot. I think I would I'm not hitting the panic button. I'm probably a week or two away. And the reason I'm not quite yet, everything you guys said are good points, valid points. The reasons I'm hesitant to do it is I still think they're a great collective team with good coaching. They have won some of those close games, like you said, John. They're 2-3. They won against the Chiefs, and the games they lost were very close. And it's an improvement from 0-6 in those games, but they've improved. And I think it's a bit like the Ravens, where they can be a great team, but they like Ravens struggled on fourth conversions and stuff, so they just weren't. Sometimes the ball doesn't fall your way, and whatever the Bills have done has improved slightly. But that's still a problem, but it's still, and you can still make it to the Super Bowl and be 50-50 in those games. It's just part of the game of football. The reason I'm waiting a week is to see how this week turns out. I did complain even while I've been sort of pro Bills, and I'm not a Bills fan, but I have a lot of Bills friends. But the reason I was hesitant weeks ago was, one, the run game wasn't proficient, and they have Hines now, so that's a huge help. But the other part, and I've talked about this a few weeks now, that they were passing the ball like 50 sometimes with Josh Allen. And come to find, I mean, I'm not saying this is what caused it. I'm sure he was injured, but I believe the UL ulceral lateral whatever on the elbow, that he's injured, is whatever it's called, UL. That's also the ligaments that are corrected in baseball with Tommy John surgery, and the way that happens is from overuse. So I talked about it a few weeks ago. He's a great quarterback, can hit those throws, but when you're passing 50 times, and he's the main runner too. It's just you're putting all your eggs in one basket. And yeah, the quarterback is by nature that position, right? But like literally he led the team in rush yards. He was passing it 50 times a game. He can do that. Not any quarterback can you do that to. But it just speaks to if they don't start getting a serious run game and depending less on Allen passing it, especially with an injury to the elbow long term, next week or 2 weeks, if that's still persisting, is when I'll be like, at least for this season, I'm panicking. But I'm not quite there yet. But I thought it was interesting that the Tommy John's, allegedly, that injury, you can play through it, but it's a surgery to correct it, and I hope he's not there because I want to see the best. But it comes from overuse, and maybe that ties to what we saw a few weeks ago when they're just passing it a ton. So I'd like to, maybe that goes to some credit to what you were saying, Jonathan, that coaching should be more aware that they have a great asset in Josh Allen, but they're depending way too much on him alone. So that I'm a week or two away. If they go 0-2, I'll probably be hitting it, but I'm not quite there yet because who knows how bad the strain is or the injuries are, and Hines being there, like they can improve, but you said these games are going to be tough, so they'll need all the help they get.
That is exactly what I was thinking, and I don't want to go too long, but I am going to say I'm hitting the panic button, and it's things that have been reiterated last year, this year. It's the run game. They just have never been able to establish anything with Singletary. Singletary has had only 85 yards is the most he's had in a game, which is a problem.
He hasn't been double Terry. He's just been Singletary.
Yep. Can't reach. All right.
We all have to take it in for a second.
I want to. I'm gonna cut that.
No, I was gonna say he's not. They don't have a power back or like because he's more.
They don't have an all down guy.
They use him for passing.
But this is the week to find out because the Browns are literally bottom 3 run defense in the entire NFL. So,
I think
if Allen's elbow is hurt and you're playing the bottom 3 run defense, you better run it 20 times without Allen. Give 15 times to Singletary, 5 to Hines, or 10 to Hines, 10 to please.
Last oh man, what is it? Week 3 or 4, John. We had a conversation about the Ravens, and they had like 2 or 3 blown leads. And the one thing that you mentioned was when they're up in the second half, they didn't have Dobbins and they weren't able to run the ball efficiently. And when you're up by that much, you have to be able to run the ball and get first downs and drain the clock. And the Bills were up 27-10, 1 minute and 30 seconds in the third quarter, blow the lead. Now, how does that happen? And they haven't established a run game with Singletary, for one. And both of the interceptions that Josh Allen threw were in the red zone. Now, if you're in the red zone, One was up, they were up 10 points, 27-17. You should just be pounding the rock. Imagine if it was the Titans with Henry. You just keep going, pounding the rock. But it's 4th and 2, and the run option is not there. Because if you run the ball up the middle with Singletary, more likely than not, he's not going to get it. So, and the Vikings know that. So it's very easy to just push everyone back into the end zone, guard the pass. But it forces the Bills' hand because Allen isn't 100% anymore. So now you're putting your faith in Josh Allen, but now he's not as accurate as you want him to be. And then in the overtime, again, 2nd and 10 and 1st and 10. They're not running the ball near the red zone, and he ends up throwing a pass all the way into the end zone and gets picked off in overtime.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things. Number one, on your last point, people get confused. It's not the actual guy. If they want to improve the run game, you have to acquire maybe new line, like a new lineman, maybe a new guard or something. I don't know. But it's a line that determines how great the running back is. It's not, no matter, I don't care if they get Kamara. Well, okay, that's a bit of a stretch. But they're not just going to get one running back and then change overnight.
But
they need to change, I don't know, the odds or something. But like,
I think
like
the
Hines,
issue,
but you're right.
The issue is like Singletary isn't like they need someone bigger, like a Dameon Pierce that can fight for yards, and Singletary just isn't like an in between the tackles guy.
But then why aren't we saying the same thing about the Chiefs? They have Pistachio, CEH, and McKinnon.
And that's a different. That's a different
that's
offense.
Different. Yeah, that's
a different offense.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's all different. It doesn't matter.
You gotta think they have a gadget guy in Pistachio. They have Clyde
They're all
Edwards-Helaire catching out of the
guys. What do you
backfield.
No, gadget guys.
The Bills and the Chiefs have run the same offense basically. They mostly pass the ball.
Mahomes runs when he needs to. Not to say like Allen's not a run first guy, but he runs a lot more. When Mahomes can scramble, but it's like you fear more his passing than his 10-yard. But he'll take the 10 yards running when it's needed for the team, or you know what I mean.
Yeah,
they were talking about this in some of the games. So I think with the we've talked about dual threat or committee running backs, but you got to have. I don't think you got to, but I think it's like what you're alluding to, Jared, is having different skill sets. Like I think what the Bills' run game has lacked is just this, like. When I played O-line, like sometimes you play against a running back who's just hungry, who just like will hit you over and over again. And this was mentioned in the Colts with Jeff Saturday taking over the team, that I guess the way Jonathan Taylor plays is like he needs to get a couple and this is every player, but he was like sometimes the running backs the first dozen times they won't get much traction, but you start to wear down that D-line because you're the aggressive force. So is Singletary that guy? I think he's used more in passing, can run it a little bit, but they don't have a guy that's like you're saying, a power back, like he's gonna relentlessly hit and tire out that defensive line, so that later in the game when you want to get time of possession, close out games, you can do that. But like the Bills' position, the way they play, Singletary can't do that, or it doesn't consistently do that, and you don't want to be doing that with your quarterback, So I think I think if you're gonna have the committee approach, you got to have a little variety in what each guy does, and. I mean, Hines is a great receiving back too, but I think he brings a little more of that aggression.
I hope they use him more. They should. I'm waiting for him to get a really fair shot at some play time.
Well, it's because they pass so much and they use Singletary for receiving. That's part of the problem. Is they're not positioning themselves to use Hines when they just traded for him. So I don't know.
Let's talk.
Last thing. I mean, again, I think John hit it spot on in terms of them finding a way to lose. Look, they should have won. Everybody knows they should have won. Josh Allen, I mean, he just dropped the ball. Like nobody knows what happened. He's dropped the ball.
Literally.
Look, I think again the biggest thing is the coaching. And can I tell you guys this? I don't know who the offensive coordinator is for the Bills right now. Do you guys know? But that's a huge maybe that's a huge problem, right? Brian Dabble. That shows how great he was on the Bills. That shows how much of an effect he had last year, right? There's no way they would have lost if Dabble was there. 27-10 you're leading. Yeah. You don't have the common sense to run the ball more and milk the clock. I mean, we all know what happens to the Falcons and Patriots. Everybody knows you got to run the ball when you're up by that much. I mean, look, I think the Bills coaching is a disaster. They better figure it out quickly.
Do you think the coaching's the problem or Allen?
honestly, it's more of the coaching. I would say it's more of the
Okay.
coaching.
Okay, fair enough.
Let's talk about the Eagles. Sorry, Caleb. Just kind of sprung that on you.
Sorry,
That's okay.
Caleb. They're 8-1.
Yeah, but it's still fresh, you know.
It is raw because we record this on Tuesday and they just lost on Monday night.
24 hours ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're first in the NFC East, 8-1, but only one game back is the New York Giants. Their first loss came last night. Monday night, Tyler Heineke and the Washington Commanders led the Commanders to a win. 3 fumbles lost, 1 interception for the Eagles. Just cannot happen. Time of possession, 40 minutes total for the Commanders to the Eagles, 19 minutes total. Dallas Goedert is going to miss significant time with a shoulder injury. So, it's time to talk hitting the panic button on the 8-1 Philadelphia Eagles. Let's just go around and say yes or no. I'm hitting the panic button or not. John?
They're still they only lost 1 game. No.
No.
Jonathan?
Don't.
Yes.
What?
No. Okay.
You're serious?
Jared,
Or are you
what do
making
you
a joke?
I'm
don't
saying
know.
yes. I'm saying yes. I'm
What?
hitting the
You guys-
panic button.
I don't want to
guys
say it. I
know
mean,
that?
I like Jalen Hurts. I mean, but like, yeah.
Now, the good thing is you're making the playoffs. That's the sure thing. You're making the playoffs.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like,
So
that's
why
not
you,
even
why
a
you guys
question.
panicking?
I'm panicking because yet again, I know this isn't just Jalen Hurts' fault. I told John yesterday, Hurts passed a perfect ball to Watkins. They should have won that game, and Watkins fumbled it. So I'm not going to put it all on Hurts. But still, through Week 10, I have not seen Jalen Hurts carry this team on his own. And it's scaring me. It's getting too late before something's got to give, and I just haven't seen it. And
I
now
don't know what you're
Goddard's
talking
out. So now we have to see, without a safety net, of Goddard. A.J. Brown, non-existent yesterday. So you had your number 1 receiver not having the greatest day. Goddard, injury. It was Hurts' time. It was Hurts' time. I'm not saying it was only his fault. There's fumbles. Like, there was refs that was big. But
Yeah.
I need to see it. I need to see it happen before I can pick them to solidify a playoff run. And that's why I'm panicking, because it's Week 10 and I haven't seen it.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that, Jared. Again, I've been saying this for weeks. The Eagles do have an easier schedule than many other teams, okay? And I think that's a big reason why they've had a great schedule so far. Yeah, last night they got exposed, all right? They got exposed. And a lot of teams saw that it's actually pretty easy to beat the Eagles, right? They're not as crisp as many teams. They make a lot of mistakes. They shoot themselves in the foot many times, turnovers, right? That's key to losing. And so there's a reason why there haven't been many Miami Dolphins in 1972, right? They get a little big-headed and cocky and a little happy and confident when they're undefeated and stuff. And then all of a sudden, when it comes to the playoffs, nobody cares about your record in regular season. Everybody wants to beat you. And I'm afraid that's probably going to happen to the Eagles. They're probably going to make the playoffs, right? Most likely. But I'm afraid for the Eagles that the way they're undefeated and talking about how they're great in the power rankings, I'm afraid they're not going to go further than the second round. They're not going to win the second round, right? They may make it the second round of the playoffs, but they're not going to go past that because you saw last night they make a lot of mistakes. They shoot themselves in the foot. That's not winning football. It's just not. And so in terms of, I'm just panicking. I'm panicking because I know many Eagles fans have aspirations in terms of going deep in the playoffs. When I say deep, I'm talking about NFC Championship and stuff. No, it's not going to happen because they're not crisp. They're not crisp. So yeah, I would panic right now if I'm Eagles fan. I'm like, yeah, this team has to become more disciplined and turn things around, or else, yeah, it's going to be a pretty short postseason. Even though we've been undefeated, we have a great record. That's not going to matter in the playoffs because for the first playoff game, I don't care who they play. That team's coming ready. They're coming ready to beat them. And so, yeah, I would panic if I was an Eagles fan. I would panic.
All right. Well, I'm an Eagles fan. I'm not panicking.
Why aren't you wearing your Eagles stuff, huh?
This is an audio, visual, mainly audio format. No, first don't you can look at the chalkboard, which is, I guess it's a shameless plug. Go to our chalkboard if you want to see the form of when we talk about this during the game. I was furious, was my words after the game, because to be fair, the Washington football team had us in the first half. All right, like I'll give it to them. They did play a better game
The
than
Commanders?
us. Washington football team.
What the heck's wrong with the Commanders?
They got me mad. They got me mad, dude.
You're not even going to
It's
call
less
them by
than
their
24
actual
hours
name.
All names.
Commanding of what? Commanded what? Like,
Commanded
no,
respect.
I'm getting angered here. Gotta chill. It's not against you guys. More just, all right. It's one
Let it
thing if you
out.
beat us on merit, but the second half, the Eagles were the better team. I can't say it any other way. And I think we might have been watching different games. I think Jalen Hurts kind of played perfectly. Everything was outside of his control. One, the interception of Brown in the beginning, I respect doing that throw. It wasn't double coverage, but Brown literally had it in his hands and it got like wrestled out. Like when you're a guy like Brown, you take those deep shots, especially in the first half. So that's like, and it came out to be about like a little shorter than a punt. So I'm like, it's not great, but you can't have a quarterback that's scared to do those throws. Okay. But then it was like the Dallas Goedert is hurt, but the fumble came off a very blatant face mask. And I know sometimes they call face mask off of like the guy's finger gets stuck in there or whatever. He was grabbing his helmet and using it like a steering wheel. And he's hurt now. And he fumbled it on that play, which was like a big momentum shift for the Eagles. And I was like, in that second half, Heineke was pumped, but a lot of the hype came off of penalties or barely doing anything. What I will say is I'm not panicking because it is one loss. I think it's you don't ever want to lose a game. You seriously do take it week to week, but you don't ignore the perception that teams want, even bad teams will want to play the spoiler. Not to say the Commanders are a bad team. I have picked them as dark horses repeatedly in the last few years because that defense is very good, and they gave the Eagles trouble. They kept doing the RPO especially they kind of in the second half stepped away from the run game, which affected the time of possession. And I think that kind of alludes to why that time of possession was so big, is that the Eagles' flaw, I think, big flaw that worries me, but I'm not panicking, but that is trouble. Injuries are part of the game, but defending against the run, I think that's critical for a team. And that's how they're able to get, and McLaurin was very good. I like him a lot as a receiver. But that second half was the Eagles. But then you have that fumble off the blatant face mask, and then Watkins catches it and then looks around and then gets the fumble thrown out. Like, that's not Hurts' fault. Hurts made the passes he had to make, had the moment. Like, he didn't make a mistake on his part, in my opinion. It wasn't our game that day. So it takes the pressure off of being compared undefeated, because I think teams do play harder just to spoil that. But what I'm curious to see is how the Eagles respond to this adversity. It's one thing to be praised and consistently rated the best, but you could keep that up after success, after loss. So I'm not worried.
They got the
though.
Colts next. They got a tough opponent coming up. I mean, this Jeff Saturday led team is got a lot of morale boost after that last win.
Yeah, that's like, I guess what I mean is, like, I don't think Jalen Hurts. I think he's carried the team. Like, I think he's done really well. I think it just goes back to some of the holes. I know what we were talking about, turnovers in this game, and that's really what I mean. I just kind of went through why each one was kind of not the first. Well, the Dallas Goedert one triggers me. The Watkins one sucks to relive in my head. But I think it was that season. I think they showed one of the stats during the game that it was like throughout the number of games we have played, there's been like 3 turnovers or something, or something ridiculous like that. And in that game alone, we had 3. So it was just not our night. And I don't want to say more things that I might be less proud of, because I was so mad. I'm still a little mad at Heineke celebrating so much in front of us when I don't think, I think Hurts was the better quarterback that that game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't expect the Eagles. I didn't expect them to go undefeated, but I expected them to maybe lose against a really tough opponent and stuff. But to lose against the Washington Commanders, that's a red flag.
Well,
you don't
home?
If you're a great team, you can't. Yeah, at home. If you're a great team, you have high aspirations to go far in postseason. You can't be losing at home to an easy team like that. I mean,
I wasn't worried.
That's why I would panic.
But they're a good team. Like I said, their defense is, they're just constantly underrated. It's like they are. Like, I don't know if we have it on the podcast, but I was telling my Philly friends. Maybe that's why I'm also extra triggered, because I was in a group chat of just all Philly hometown friends, so anything that happened was like amplified emotionally because we were all suffering. But I was saying even before the game, I was like, I do kind of worry. Like the Commanders have some good people, Like I wasn't saying we were gonna lose, but there was like we're gonna have to. I was telling them like we're gonna have to fight this one out because people look at them as a bad team and we're undefeated. They're gonna want to play the spoil, and end up being that way, sadly.
Washington in 2020. Remember we were talking about how like when are the Bucks gonna lose, and then Caleb, you called that the Commanders were gonna beat the Bucks, and you called it like it was like week 6 or something, and the Commanders beat them, or the Washington beat them, and then
they are Commanders. Well,
yeah, this
at the time,
back then.
Yeah, you're
then,
right. Actually, back then they were the Washington football team.
Then the Steelers were 11-0. They go and face Washington, and they play spoil. So the Commanders are like the spoiler team of the century. Yeah. So
like they don't ever make it to the promised land, but they're constantly bringing other people away from that. They're protecting the Dolphins' record, I guess so.
Upset city, man.
Yeah, well, it's because they're getting I think was it Young, coming back not this week but next week. I think was the rumor for the D.
Yeah, we may have to talk about them a bit more because they could all make the playoffs in the NFC East.
Yeah, that's crazy, actually.
John, final thoughts?
Yeah, the reason I wouldn't panic is, I don't know. We have one end of the extreme. I think Caleb's a little too high on him, and I think you guys are a little too low on the Eagles. I think, Jonathan, I get your point. You and Jared say that, they're just not crisp. They're not all there. That's easy to say for a quarterback in a team that doesn't have recent playoff experience. I mean, they did play last year, lost to the Bucks in the first round, but Hurts doesn't really have that experience in the big games. And yeah, it's unfortunate that his schedule is what it is. I mean, it is an easy schedule this season. The whole NFC East has an easy schedule, but at the same time, like, he hasn't had those tough games. Hopefully throughout the second half of the season, they have those tougher games so that he could gain that experience. I don't think that they're going to win the Super Bowl. I don't think they're going to get to the Super Bowl, but I don't think it's time to panic. It's still week 11. They still have time to show that they're this team. I mean, Hurts did throw 4 touchdown passes, 285 yards against the Steelers when they won 35-13. So he's shown that he can throw the ball well. But I just think it's a little too early to panic.
Our third team, and we'll kind of speed through these. The last team is the Rams, but this one I know it's going to take a while. The Dallas Cowboys, third in the NFC East. They're 6-3. Most recently lost to the Packers in overtime. They blew a 28-14 lead. Dak threw 2 interceptions. They do have a rising star, Mr. Tony Pollard. He is I had to double check this. He's averaging, since Zeke's injury, 110 yards per game. Unbelievable. And
he's good.
Honestly, he's playing 1,000 times better than Zeke, and I think they should have traded Zeke, but I think with all the money and contract.
Did you hear what Jerry Jones said about Pollard and Zeke?
No.
He says, I don't give a shit if Tony Pollard cures cancer mid-game. He'll never start over Zeke.
Are you kidding me?
He did not.
No, are you serious?
That's what he said. And
wow.
We can all say he doesn't realize that Zeke's getting older. He thinks that Zeke is still 23
and fatter.
Zeke. Fatter, slower, worse. Pollard is the better running back. He's more efficient. Yes, he doesn't get as many touches, and maybe when he's on the field, the opposing team thinks they're throwing the ball, so they don't guard the run. But the last 2 games that Zeke was out, Pollard's gotten, 120 yards and 3 touchdowns 2 games ago, and then 115 yards and a touchdown.
Yep.
So he's clearly the more efficient back.
Yeah. That's crazy to say. Like, oh, you cure cancer, you're still not good enough to be number 1 in the Cowboys. Like, that's Jerry Jones's mind. Is every social issue goes back to how does it help the Cowboys?
Yeah.
Let's go around the room. Is it time to hit the panic button on the Dallas Cowboys? John?
Yeah, you got to panic.
Jonathan?
No.
Caleb?
Yeah.
I'm saying no.
The opposite split of the Eagles.
Yeah. So, okay.
And the reason I'm not hitting the panic button, just for me quickly, is I don't think the expectations for the Cowboys are that high, and if they make the playoffs again
What?
this year, they're going to do that. So if people are panicking, I don't know what you're panicking about. You're going to make the playoffs and you're going to lose first round. So I don't know. Like,
So you don't think their expectations are Super Bowl?
right, Eagles
Right.
are much higher because of the
Why?
start that they had.
That's an
But,
interesting. Perspective wise, I could. That's an interesting way to look at it.
There may be
support that.
some delusional Cowboys fans that are like Super Bowl every single year, but there's no way.
Well,
There's no way, Jonathan, that you
Jonathan,
thought.
Do you think that they can make the Super Bowl?
There's no
Oh, yeah.
way.
They can
Beginning
make the Super Bowl. If you have a great defense, any team that has a great defense in the NFL right now can make the Super Bowl.
Okay, so
Okay, the Jets could make-
28 to 14, you blow the lead, lose in overtime. That's a great defense.
Well, let's not forget who we're playing against. We're playing against one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play.
Oh
the
my
game.
gosh, they've lost 3 straight games and they suck.
you let a rookie
No,
get
no.
three
You
You
touchdowns.
literally
They-
let a rookie
they-
get 3 touchdowns on 4 catches. You didn't change your scheme at all.
They needed number one. They needed that. Aaron Rodgers and Green Bay Packers needed that win. Okay. Number two,
Needed.
Christian Watson. Yeah, Christian Watson. I mean, they've been dropping passes all year and all that. So we're like, okay, let this guy beat us.
No,
And
but
yeah,
what
have a
about
great
your
game.
run defense? Aaron Jones had 128 yards. AJ Dillon had over 50 yards. You didn't want to stop them either.
Yeah, I mean, they're having a pretty good day. But again, we didn't expect. The Cowboys didn't expect the Green Bay Packers to have a great run game. They're focused on the Aaron Rodgers and his receivers and stuff. So maybe schematically they made some issues, but there was some controversial stuff towards the end of the game. Right, the Cowboys could have easily flipped the other way, where Cowboys could have easily escaped.
But it didn't.
But it could have easily went the other way. But the Packers needed this. They had to get this, or else it would have been done. It would have been done. They needed this. They were dying for a win. They had to get this.
So you're chalking it up to the fact that the Packers just had to win.
They had to win it. Yes,
Okay,
they
so
had
when
to
it gets to the playoffs and the Cowboys lose, well,
no.
the other team they played just had to win. Otherwise, their
No,
season.
I mean,
was
Cowboys can afford to lose. We're all good. We're probably gonna make the playoffs. But the thing is, I'm not panicking, because if you look at the rest of our schedule, the next game we can turn around like that. See that's how the Cowboys are. We lose to the Packers, but then we're gonna be one of the few teams, just like the Eagles.
Do you
to
think they're going to beat the
Vikings.
Vikings? You think they're going to beat the
They're gonna
Vikings?
Yes, they're gonna beat the Vikings. Justin Jefferson may have a great game.
Who's going to cover Justin Jefferson? Nobody can.
If
Christian Watson can get 3 touchdowns, oof.
Yeah, but they weren't worried about Christian Watson, that little rookie. Justin Jefferson, believe me, everybody knows. Stop Justin Jefferson, you win the game.
What about
Stop him,
Dalvin
you win
Cook?
the game. He's not as impactful. I mean, he's good, but he's not. I wouldn't worry about him. Just
Yeah,
stop him.
81-yard touchdowns, not anything to worry about.
I mean, where was that every single game before that? The Bills blew it. They shouldn't have let him score that. In the NFL, he scored 81-yard touchdown. That's not common in the NFL. So if you do that, if you allow a team to do that, that means your defense sucks. And Bills, I guess your defense sucks.
Yo, careful
about-
saying.
I mean,
What about-
you know what's
Cowboys give up an 80-yard one.
you know what's great? What's great about this is the Eagles and Cowboys, right? The Eagles played the Cowboys and won, right? So that's one.
Without Dak, yeah.
And then,
He
yeah,
always
yeah.
slides that in there.
Then, yeah, I know. And then, so they got to play the Eagles and they got to play the Giants.
You have to play the
Right.
Giants.
And they gotta play-
I love the Giants. I love playing the Giants.
Yes, I love the Giants too.
It's like licking my fingers.
You're
I
gonna
love
eat.
playing the Giants. Yeah, exactly. And so look at the Vikings. The Vikings, people are gonna be surprised. People are gonna be laughing and crying because we're gonna beat the Vikings. They're like, wait, how'd y'all beat the Vikings? But then y'all lost to the Packers, in overtime. That's the Cowboys.
That's-
America's team. And so that's what's gonna happen. So that's gonna turn our season around. They're gonna the Cowboys are gonna beat.
Do you,
the Cowboys
do you
are
think
gonna
you're going to beat? Okay, if you beat the Vikings, do you think you'll beat the Eagles and then beat the Giants?
Oh yeah, you can't. It's tough to beat a team twice. It's tough to beat the same team
Oh,
twice.
so Giants will beat
Oh,
the Cowboys. So Giants will beat the Cowboys.
well, the Giants.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
No.
Giants
No.
win.
Like,
Thank you.
when
I take that.
When you get to a certain level, I'm talking about the people on the high level right now. The Eagles and the Cowboys are on the top level in NFC East. Okay.
No, whoa. Stop. Eagles are 8-1. Giants 7-2. I don't see Cowboys in the top two.
All right, let's be honest. The Giants. A lot of those games have been close. They could have easily lost. Those
No,
games.
they should have actually
See what
beat
I'm
the
saying?
Cowboys. They should have.
No. Like, the Giants struggle against the Cowboys for some reason. I don't know why. They struggle against the Cowboys, and so they're gonna struggle again. And that's just how it is. And so the Cowboys are easily gonna beat the Giants. The Cowboys will beat the Eagles. And I don't know. Is that in Philly, by the way? Or it's in it was in Philly last time.
Doesn't
I
matter.
remember it was in Philly. It's gonna be this is the Cowboys are gonna win. They know they have to win this one. They're gonna beat them. Oh yeah. And you saw last night. There's a way to beat the Eagles. Number one, they'll beat themselves. Number two, don't give them enough chances to score because their offense, they're not a high scoring offense. Okay, if you give them less chances, then there's gonna be less.
Wait,
points.
Jonathan.
I don't think that's
Jonathan. I have a question for you. So,
Yeah.
Cowboys play the Vikings this week. That's a win.
Perfect.
You're saying.
That's a win. That's a
Next week is against the Giants. That's a win.
win. Yep.
And then Colts. That's a
Easy.
win. Okay,
Yes.
Texans.
Oh yes.
What
He's
about
gotta say
Jaguars?
win to everyone.
What about Jaguars?
I think we're gonna win.
And then
Yes.
and then Eagles at home. That's a win.
Yes.
Then Titans. Titans is easy.
Yes.
And then Commanders. So
Easy.
you're going undefeated.
Oh yeah, we're gonna win. We're gonna win out.
Jonathan, you don't have to
We're gonna
say
win
these things.
The Cowboys are gonna win out. And so
What
That's what
teams
I'm
could
not
give the
serious, man.
Cowboys trouble at this point in the season? I'm just curious.
I'm looking at the rest of our schedule.
No, just
Maybe.
hypothetically, who gives you fear as a Cowboy? If your team sort of
Maybe the Giants.
Maybe the Vikings. Maybe, but for
Maybe,
Just
maybe the 8-1 Vikings who just beat.
Other than that,
Neville.
other than that, the Cowboys should win out.
Are there any teams that'll score points on you? Are you
Wait,
shutting out
Jonathan,
anyone?
Jonathan, is there a possibility that the Cowboys don't lose again until next season?
So until Super Bowl.
No, until like the beginning of next season. Like they go undefeated rest of regular season, then win the Super Bowl. Is that
There's a
possible?
possible. Yeah, it's possible. If you have a great defense, anything is possible.
But that's the thing. Okay, that's the reason I am panicking on the Cowboys is because you're known for this great defense. The first 6 weeks of the season, you were touted as like a historic defense or something. And now you give up 31 points. We know that without Amari Cooper, Zeke is not the same player he was. Pollard's just not getting used because Jerry Jones hates him. And CeeDee Lamb is good, but in the cold weather, CeeDee Lamb needs to stand in front of that heater and warm his hands up because he's cold.
We
So I
saw
don't
it in
think-
person.
I don't think this offense is going to be able to get it done. So then the defense has to do it, and they haven't shown it to me.
I think their most cutthroat guy on the offense is probably Pollard. You know what I mean? Because Lamb is good, but we talked about him a few weeks ago. Like he's not that Cooper.
Like he's
that-
got to cure global warming. I think that's the only thing that's cancer. Right?
He's like, all right, add it to the list. It'll be a busy offseason.
I'll do
for me,
cancer
guys.
and global warming. How about that?
And then
Again, I
finally
say
Jerry
this.
Jones will start me.
In some games, like the Packers, we thought was going to be a cakewalk. Some games, you don't want to show too much of your secrets.
Oh my
Okay.
gosh! Come,
In,
okay.
in anticipation of what's going to happen towards the end of the season,
Oh,
in the playoffs, you don't want to show too
now
much of
you're
your
now you're
secrets.
getting
I-
crazy. Now
I
you're getting
disagree
smart.
with I think
That's
it's a little.
smart.
you're driving
We need to
me
put a
full delusion
disclaimer.
a little
We need
bit.
to put a disclaimer on the beginning of this video.
Well, I
You
like
guys
how
are-
you
you're
started
laughing
that
now, but
segment
believe
with
me,
some delusional
I can't
Cowboy
wait.
fans.
I
will leave the
can't
way.
wait until you guys lose.
The Cowboys are going to beat
This
the
is
Vikings.
Giants,
Jonathan.
dude.
I mean, if they
Giants
lose a
on
close one to the
Thanksgiving.
Vikings-
Giants on Thanksgiving.
Oh, that's perfect Thanksgiving. Yes, that's what we want. That's why. That's purposely why
I'm
they
gonna
scheduled
eat
that.
It's
turkey.
so
That's
annoying.
be
how they always
dude.
do it on Thanksgiving.
That's
Actually.
gravy, bro. That's gravy.
No. We got to get the sick of the Cowboys playing on Thanksgiving every year.
Yeah, dude.
Unrelated
I'm
to my
scheduled.
take.
I'm so happy.
I mean,
I mean,
Caleb,
yeah.
let's hear your thoughts on the Cowboys. I'm sure you're as optimistic as Jonathan, right?
no. I will give. I disagree with like most of what you said, Jonathan. I love you as a friend, but your Cowboy takes I can't agree with. What I will give credit to though is I do think this was a must-win game for the Packers, and that is a big factor. I think. I mean, I don't know why. I mean, I know it's McCarthy now, but Packers and the Cowboys go back a long way. You know, like there's always been some spoil games, some interesting matchups, right?
Des caught it.
Yep. Well.
I have video
Don't
you
get us started.
saying. I have video you saying that he didn't catch it.
Des.
Yeah, I
No,
remember
he caught it.
remember the whisper challenge. You said it.
He.
I have the clip. Roll the clip. Roll the clip.
No.
So I don't know what year that was. The Cowboys won the Super Bowl that year. Because if you think about it, we would have beat the Eagles. I mean, we would have beat the Packers. We would have beat the Seahawks. We would have won the Super Bowl that year.
I didn't mean to open that
Cowboys.
can of worms. I don't know about that, but I will say they go back a long way. So it's like even before McCarthy, they've been that kind of interesting game to watch. Those two. So I think it double. If the Packers had lost, you're starting to get into where the Broncos are right now with Wilson.
Rebuilding mode.
Like almost that's like a pure panic from week 1, the Broncos. And if the Packers had lost, the Cowboys are a good team, but I don't think my panic is because of how tough the division is. I think the Commanders are a good team. If they get Young back, but they still have 2 good quarterbacks with Heineke and Wentz, whichever one starts. If one of them has a bad game, hey, just put the better guy in. I think teams in that position just use both guys. Same with, I'm looking at the Panthers too. Colts as well. Excuse me. Well, Colts not so much, but no, I worry for the discipline of the Cowboys. I've talked about this. Sorry.
Oi.
I talked about this all the time, but I think this came up in the game too. But penalties, man, Cowboys get penalized a ton, and they don't have that cutthroat guy that they had in Amari. So, and if they're not going to use Pollard, they do have a great defense, but those little things, I think, like lack of discipline, not having that scary wide receiver threat, and then if you're not going to use Pollard and kind of divide yourself, I think that's just, you can still win games, but they're not putting the best foot forward consistently. So I think that's what exposes them,
Yeah, and by the way, we're talking about receiver, Caleb. The Cowboys are probably getting OBJ. So
you think
if we get him, oh, it's over. It's game over. If we get OBJ, it's game over.
I thought he wanted to go to the Packers. I'm not gonna lie.
No, he's not. No, he wants to go to a team that can win a Super Bowl. Rams. I'm hitting the panic button on the Rams.
Oh, that ties into the next topic.
That's a good mention of OBJ.
Good segue here.
Yeah, get us off the Cowboys. I can't take it anymore.
Please.
All right. And we got to do this Rams one extra quick, but the basics of the Rams, everyone knows that they're last place in the NFC West. They just lost Cooper Kupp to IR. They are below 500. They haven't beaten a team above 500. And they are, oh, wow. I'm reading on my notes. Does anyone know the last Super Bowl winning team to not make the playoffs the next year? John, don't answer because you already know.
The last Super Bowl winning team not to make the playoffs the next Panthers. Carolina Panthers.
Oh, that would be my.
But Panthers didn't win it, but it was that. It was that year.
Oh yeah, right. I don't.
It was that year. You have it.
Ravens.
The Broncos. Peyton Manning won it with Peyton Manning. He says sayonara, and they get Trevor Siemian.
When he retired, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
So that was the last time, 2015. The Rams have less than a 10% chance to make the playoffs now.
Wow.
Guys, panic button on the Rams, super quick. I'm hitting the panic button. Boom, boom, boom. John?
Yeah, panic. Kupp got surgery yesterday. It's over.
Yeah, I think his panic. We talked about that way in preseason. I mean, Stafford's he's always dealt with injuries, but I think it's just without Cooper, and if there's still persistent pain, it's little Super Bowl hangover. Jonathan?
Yeah, panic. We saw this coming. Cooper Kupp. How are you gonna they overuse him? Stop overusing him. I knew it was coming. That's the coach's fault.
And what's the drama with Akers, right? The Cam Akers, the running back?
Yeah, they're just not on good terms. He's
it's just personal or what? You guys have any idea what's going on over there?
It's a personal thing. It's
I don't get it.
A relationship thing with the coaches, and it's just a mess.
That's weird. Yeah, I mean, that's what I've heard about, but it's how does that happen in the pros? You know what I mean? I mean, I know it happens, but they're not using him, and he could be a great running back, So that.
Not even to mention, Aaron Donald was gonna retire. Now is he he's gonna be like, all right, now I'm definitely leaving. This team's in the dumps.
Yeah. Well, there were rumors about McVay retiring, and I know that it sounded crazy. Yeah. We have I think on the podcast, because it was way out of left field, but it's he is so young and so successful that burnout, it could be a thing. And I'm not saying he will, but he's talked about even this season, wanting to stay with his family more, I think he's, I don't know what the family situation, if he got married or something, but he's a young dude, but it's if you make the Super Bowl and now it's just to repeat it, it's a much different mindset to repeat success. And a lot of Super Bowl repeats, that's why Super Bowl repeats are really hard to do. That you see them, Patriots and Seahawks, but it's a whole mentality to go a whole other season and make those expectations again. So I think that already on top of all these injury issues and personnel issues, it's I just think, hey, you went all in last year to win the Super Bowl. You got it. Hats off to you. But now you just got to deal with the repercussions of what that costs. So
Yeah, and
I
that's
still
a great point.
they have my respect for doing it. I think teams need to do that more, and it's not because of their lack of draft capital that they're losing, but it's just more like if that's the mentality that year and you're not giving it all in this year, then people know like, oh, we're not giving it all up to win this year. So it just kind of, you know what I mean? It's psychologically, people know. It's like, oh, we won, and it's very tempting to take the foot off the gas pedal.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Caleb, because Joe Thomas made a comment about Jeff Saturday recently. I don't know if you guys seen that video, but he's saying like it's disrespectful to hire somebody like Jeff Saturday, right? That has no coaching experience, because as a coach, there's so much. Number one, there's so much pressure to win and all that, but it's a stressful job being a coach.
Yeah,
you don't just wake up in the morning and just go there like a couple hours before. No, you spend a lot of time outside. Spend a lot of time inside the coach's facility, not seeing your family for a while, right? Joe Thomas was talking about seeing him like once a week. He said that he used to live next to NFL head coach and saw him for like he saw his kids for once a week. His NFL head coach friend that he lived next to, and so yeah, I sort of understand why Sean McVay would want to retire, because it's not an easy job, right? There's a lot of stress that comes with it, and so yeah, doing this for 15, 20 years, I don't know if he can handle it, but yeah.
It takes, and it's like even if you win, the players can have a victory Monday off, but then as your job and your family, it's like you're on to the next one as a coach. You know what I mean? Like it's on to the next week right away. Even if it's a great win, so it is tough to succeed long term.
Let's move into lock and upset. So to recap last week, John went 1-1, still holding on to first place at 12-9. Caleb 2-0 jumps over me and is now 11-10 in second place. And Jonathan and I are down at the bottom. We both went 1-1 and we are 10-11. So Jonathan, since you've been in last the whole year, you get courtesy of the first pick for the lock. What is your lock this week?
My lock this week.
You have a chance to look?
Yeah, so a lot of interesting games, man. My oh my god.
No, surely.
There's not really a.
I know what you're not going to pick.
Actually, yeah, I know. But that one's the most clear one.
Can you bring yourself to do it? We don't even have to say the team, but can you bring yourself to?
Okay, I'm just gonna. Okay, I mean, well, I'll say this. I'm picking. I want to be right, but I'm picking the Eagles to beat the Colts.
Oh,
that's a tough one though.
Okay.
Because I like Jeff Saturday and I think he's turning this team around, but I'm picking the Eagles to beat the Colts. That's my lock.
Okay. Eagles to beat the Colts. I'm going with the Chiefs over the Chargers.
Dang it, that was one of mine.
Over your own team. You guys are just picking. You actually want to be right for once. Jonathan picking the Eagles, Jared picking against the Chargers.
I was looking at another game and I'm like, I know the Chargers more than anybody, so I feel more confident doing that.
I'm gonna take the Bills over the Browns for my lock.
Okay.
I am going to take the Ravens over the Panthers.
We've somehow left John with the deepest because they're the most.
You guys gave me the toughest game to choose.
That's what happened last week, and he was wrong. So we kind of did it right.
Yeah.
For those listening or who those don't know, but Eagles are 6.5 favorites. I think the Chiefs are 6.5 over the Chargers. Bills are 8.5, but the Ravens are 12.5. So then we gave John the most favorite.
Yeah. Well, I don't know why
favorite. Yeah. Fair enough.
I kind of like the Panthers. So. Jonathan, you're upset.
I hate to do this, and you guys may think I'm kidding, but I'm not. But I've studied the film, and I know what I see. I'm picking the Browns to beat the Bills, guys. The Bills struggle against the run, and the Browns are gonna pop them. The Browns are gonna pop them.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah, that's not a bad pick.
That's actually
I'm picking. Darn. I'm picking the Raiders over the Broncos.
Upset.
Okay.
So yeah, it's
bad.
I'm picking for an upset. I'm picking. This isn't personal. I'm picking the Vikings over the Cowboys.
Ooh. How was that an upset?
They're
Wait, is
one
that
and
an
a half.
upset?
They're one and a half point favorites.
1.5.
Wait, Cowboys are projected to win?
No, Vikings are. Oh, Cowboys are projected.
Cowboys are favored by
What?
1.5.
How does that happen?
That's hey. So
Wow.
Oh my god.
so Vikings
Oh
are
my
1.5.
Everyone's
underdogs.
drinking the same stuff that Jonathan's drinking.
All right. Are you guys ready for this?
Let's see it.
Can he go 2-0 yet again?
I'm so curious. 'cause
I
I
am
don't.
going to do something insane. Get ready
Mentally
for
insane.
insanity. I am mental right now. And what I am going to do is I am going to get rid of my Ravens-Panthers pick. I'm not picking the Ravens to beat the Panthers for my lock. I'm going with 2 upsets this week.
Oh my
The
god.
reason I'm doing this, you guys on TikTok love these stats. Listen to this one, guys. Teams to play the Carolina Panthers are 0-9 the week after they play them. The Browns in week 1 started it off, beat the Carolina Panthers. Then in week 2, they lost. Every single team that plays the Carolina Panthers loses the following week. And you might be saying, well, what about the Rams? In week 6, they played the Panthers and they won. In week 7, the Rams had a bye. Nope, the Rams came back in week 8 and lost to the 49ers. So it even holds true after a bye. The Panthers played the Falcons last week and beat them. Falcons are underdogs or favorites to the Bears this week. I'm picking the Bears in an upset against the Falcons. Not only that, but the Bengals played the Panthers 2 weeks ago and had a bye last week. I'm picking the Steelers to upset the Bengals. I'm going with 2 upsets because every team that plays the Panthers loses the next week.
Dang.
I respect it. I was gonna say this better be a good upset picks if there's 2 of them, but I like
Oh,
that.
that's gonna be awesome.
I'll respect that thinking. I'll take it.
Dude, if
Wow.
that is right,
If
dude,
that is
I'm
right,
That's 2-0. That is
golden.
incredible. That is so cool. If it's 2-0, I'm not even gonna be mad. It's like it's.
yeah, if you do that, I'm gonna be impressed.
It's like who knows? Maybe there's something about the Panthers. Like the teams just show they show everything they have to beat the Panthers for some reason.
Exactly.
I like it.
Wait, so can I get the Ravens-Panthers pick then?
Nope.
Yeah, I was
Nobody can get Ravens Panthers.
It's too
You guys
late, it's too late.
already left it on the board.
I'm surprised it's that much with the Panthers.
Wow. Okay, that was exciting way to end the podcast.
Thank you.
Hopefully you guys enjoyed that episode of the Dorm Bay Podcast. As always, make sure you go like and follow or like and subscribe on this video. Go over to TikTok and Instagram at Dorm Bay Podcast and then go follow us over there. And go, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify, leave us a 5-star review. And I'm going to leave a link to our chalkboard down below, and you can talk with us during the live games and get our live views on everything that happens during Sunday and Monday and Thursday. So craziness. Make sure you guys go and subscribe, and as always, we will see you guys next week.